I always love the Trailblazers broadcast helicopter that zooms overhead of Moda Center.
Oh, yeah, so that's
take
not
those fine shots.
That's not a helicopter anymore, man.
That's not?
That's a drone.
Oh, it's a drone?
2015, man. It's a drone.
Pretty high up, though.
Yeah, it's a drone.
So you're saying that the expense isn't as
Oh, it's just as nice.
Oh.
But it's not. It's a drone.
So it's an easy thing to do.
It's not. I don't know if it's easy or not, but I know it's a drone.
Doesn't require a pilot?
Yes, you just thumb with your thumbs. Yeah.
Hey, guys.
I was going to make a grand entrance, a grand announcement that it's not only Brian Wheeler and Tony Harvey, but head coach Terry Stotts is with us for the second straight. We believe now in the 52-year history of this show, records are not kept of this nature. But we think that this is the first time that a Trailblazers head coach, considering the franchise hasn't been around for 52 years.
I'm thinking through. I'm like, wow. And
I just like to throw. I put out a different number every time because it sounds like it gives the feel of being a more magnitude,
bigger
of what I'm saying. So, but we believe this is the first time that a Trailblazers head coach has been in studio 2 weeks in a row for this fine program. So we thank Coach Stotts for that. We wish he had more to do with his life, that he wouldn't have to come in 2 weeks in a row. But he volunteered both times. That's the great thing about it. He just can't stay away from us.
Hey, what can you say? Well, Coach, what do you have to say about all of that?
You know, I was downtown, and if I can find an opportunity to come in and be with you guys, I look forward to it.
Yeah, that's terrific.
Well, you know, the casual tuner into wouldn't know that he's been here 2 weeks in a row. Only more frequent tuner intos would be aware that he's been here for 2 weeks in a row.
That's what I'd be counting on. But I never like to assume that people know everything. You know, you don't want to talk down to the audience that they know everything. But they certainly know who Coach Stotts is. And we also should say that last week he came and appeared for the Blazer Booster Club at one of their functions before he did Trailblazers Courtside. Today he was doing another function for the organization. So, you know, it isn't as if he just worries about coaching basketball, which is a pretty important part of his everyday life. But he's a giver to the organization in every way possible. No, I mean, I just want people to know that this is you're a very gracious person.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate that. So tell everybody, because we've heard the term, and Ed Davis was real excited about it last night on the postgame show when we spoke to him about it. But they've heard days off, they've heard maintenance day, but blackout day. Now that sounds kind of serious, but what exactly is a blackout day?
Well, this isn't the first time that we've had this.
I understand.
So basically, you know, when I came in the league, off days were off days, but it meant young guys, you still needed to be there. And I do believe in having off days that everybody, it needs to be, it's not just optional, but implied that you have to be there. And I think it's important that coaches and players and training staff and everybody needs a day off. And so it's just, don't come in. You know, don't come in. Don't expect anybody to be there. Spend time with your family. Go to Multnomah Falls. Sleep in. Whatever you need to do. But everybody needs some time to themselves.
You know, I don't know if we ever had blackout days when I played.
But times have changed.
Yes, they have. I mean, a lot of times have changed. You can't practice them over, 3 hours of training?
2 days no longer exist. So, yeah, times have changed.
Coach,
but I think from a mental standpoint and, you know, physical standpoint, it's I think it does everybody good.
Isn't it nice, though, that you have a group of guys that you have to almost tell them don't come in, because chances are they probably would if given the choice?
Well, in all honesty, there were when I went into the office today just to do.
So you went in?
Well, I went in because I had some things I had to get done, but there were 5 players there, and over half my coaches were there working with them. And it's like I was telling them, enjoy your day off. Okay, fine.
But that's, to me, that almost speaks to how they enjoy their days off. Like, they enjoy being in the gym.
No, it's great. It's I'm really proud of the work ethic that we've established, coaches and players here.
You talked about before this homestand began that sometimes you can be we know that road trips can get long, but you even said that sometimes you can get a little stale being at home too long. But it's been very productive, 2 games left, and I know you'd like to finish it strong because obviously it's gone very well to this point in time. Have you sensed that things have gone well, the balance of playing games, having days off, getting some practice time in, getting some recovery time for injuries, has it gone well to this point?
Yeah, I think all the things that you just mentioned. You know, we've had a few times where we've had 2 days off between games, so we can rest a day. The practices have been competitive. We've been able to work on things live rather than just kind of half speed or watching video. I think the recuperation time. Damian was having the plantar fasciitis, and everybody else has some bumps and bruises. So I think it's been very productive from a recuperation and a practice standpoint.
Coach, you guys went 9-5 in the month of January, and not a lot of people expected this kind of jump. What do you see different from your team in the last 14 games that has led to that success?
Well, if we hadn't kicked some of those games early, and we all know which games those are, but who knows what would have happened in January? If who knows? But one thing about our team is that we've never stopped working. I don't think our confidence has ever been shaken or wavered, and I think the goal this season was to improve individually and collectively, and I think we're seeing that on the court. Now the schedule has come back to us. Obviously, December was a difficult month for us. January was home heavy, and we've been able to take advantage of that. The challenge for us now is going to be to carry this over into February and March, and we've got some challenges coming up. But I think more than anything else is that we compete, and I think we play hard. I think the fans enjoy watching us play because we're going to give effort every night, and that's what they want to see. And when you do that, you have a chance to win games.
I know you never want the guys to look too far ahead, and it takes away from what's needed to focus in on each individual opponent. Milwaukee coming up next tomorrow. But how often do you talk, if at all, about standings, playoffs, trying to position yourself, moving up in the world, these kind of things that fans look at every day?
Or somebody else looks at every day.
Fan. Look at every day. Yeah.
No, I mean, we look at the standings. I'm not going to say, and we don't, we have no idea what's going on around us. Certainly, we look at the standings and we know where we are. And when we played Sacramento, we know the importance of that game and what it would mean for us if we won that game. So, yeah, we look at the standings, but the importance of the standings is the next game. And beating Milwaukee has its own implications regardless of the standings. So, I think looking at that part of it is human nature, certainly, and if you're an athlete, you're competitive in that way, but not to get too far ahead of, when do we play Utah again, or when do we play Sacramento, or things like that. We got to worry about Milwaukee right now.
Coach, Noah VONLEH, almost 30 plus games, 31 games?
36 straight starts, I think.
It seems like every single minute he's been on the floor, just about, he's played better minute over minute. How important is it for him to continue to grow? Because, obviously he's a big part of the future of this team.
Well, going into this year, Noah was an important part of this season. His development was a priority for this season, and getting him into games, every game, was a priority. And, the fact that Myers got hurt and it opened up a spot for Noah, and from my standpoint, the ability to start him and have him on the court with the better players was good for him, and it was good for the team because, Damian and CJ are out there, going back to back in Seattle, and you were both in Seattle when Irvin Johnson was starting, but Sam Perkins played the bulk of the minutes at center. I think it's just it's a very good way to get a young player minutes at the start of each half, and now Noah has gone into a situation where now he's getting more minutes. I'll put him back in the game in the first half or things like that. But the improvement that he's made is to be expected because that was a priority of this season.
Speaking of guys like Noah and Mason and Farouk and some of the young guys that you brought in, people heard process and they heard development, and I think right away they immediately said, oh, they're not going to try to win then. Then that means that they're just going to just throw guys out there and just let them get game experience and hope they get better based on that. Has it been tough at all to balance getting guys developing, getting a look at some young players to see if you want them to be part of your core for the future while at the same time worrying about winning games too?
Not really, because every player other than maybe Gerald Henderson, but he's not an old guy either, but everybody who's playing is a young guy. So we are playing young players up and down the roster, and Chris Kaman obviously is not in the rotation, but everybody else is under 30 years old and a relatively young player. So it hasn't been difficult because no matter who's on the court, they're all young and they're all getting an opportunity. and then we just go from there.
You know, the thing that I hear fans relay that sentiment all the time. The thing that cracks me up is, does anybody really think Damian Lillard wants to lose, or C.J. McCollum? It's not like, you know, that's not even a given. Like, I have yet to ever meet a player that says, you know what, we lost some guys, we'll lose this year and we'll come back next year. Every player that ever steps on the court wants to win, and you can't tell that enough to fans.
Well, you know, going into the season, the goal was to make the playoffs. And, you know, everybody in the locker room, players, coaches, the goal was to make the playoffs. And, you know, whether we do or not, we'll see. That's why you play the games. But, you know, there wasn't a person in the locker room that said, well, we're just going to roll it out there and see what happens this year. You know, Damian Lillard is one of the most competitive players I've coached. And there's nothing that he doesn't think is possible. And first year, second year, third year, he's demonstrated that, and that rubs off on the team. And you know, Neil O'Shea has done a terrific job in bringing young players who are competitive, who have upside talent-wise, but are very good players, good character guys, very competitive players, and want to win. And you know, I think that's a good formula.
On the subject of Neil, I was listening to a national radio show. They were talking about the Washington Wizards. They were saying how that they had put all their eggs in the basket that this year they felt that they weren't going to be able to compete for a championship, but they wanted to make sure that they would do enough good things so in the offseason they could attract Kevin Durant via free agency as a guy that they could say, come home and be the final piece that we need to compete for a championship. But they said it's been a disastrous year to this point, and it's sending everything into a tizzy, and that they don't have a backup plan. And it's interesting to hear somebody say that because clearly what Neil and his staff have done is put this organization in a great spot where, regardless of what happened in the offseason, this organization was ready to move forward. If LaMarcus said he was coming back, then there was a plan to go along with that. If he said he was going elsewhere, which he did, there was a plan to go along with that. So I think it's allowed things to be a lot more seamless in terms of moving forward than it would have been if there hadn't been some contingency plans in place.
No, Neil did an outstanding job this summer, being prepared to go either way. And he had a clear vision of what this team was going to do one way or the other. And, you know, the plan that, you know, he envisioned, he played out terrifically. I mean, you look at the players, all of them, the plan that he envisioned is being played out right now. And, you know, I don't have enough adjectives to say how well he did that, because I think it's easy to kind of overlook. It's easy to say now, but in the middle of June and July, there were a lot of question marks. And, you know, obviously he knew exactly what he wanted.
I thought it was great, too, when we sat in on meetings in June and July and hearing his vision of things. He sounded so confident about things that if LaMarcus didn't come back, you know, we're not you know, shutting the doors and deciding we're not going to play again. I mean, he really felt confident that we're still going to be okay, and people are going to like the new guys we'll bring in, maybe as much, if not more, than the guys we had previously. They'll be different, but they'll still like the team, and clearly that's happening.
Well, I think the fans enjoy watching us play, and you know, the expectations were low, and that always helps, you know, coaches and players when expectations are low. But I think he saw in the players that he brought in what was possible.
All right, when we come back, we'll continue with Blazers head coach Terry Stotts. There was another coaching change in the NBA today. We'll talk about life as a head coach in the league and also about the week ahead for the Blazers, which includes the final 2 games of this homestand and 2 road games coming up as well, the final 2 road games before the All-Star break, too. We continue with this edition of Trailblazers Courtside. Blazers head coach Terry Stotts is with us. Jeff Hornacek becomes the 4th head coach to be fired in the NBA, even before we've gotten to the All-Star break.
Help me count them out now.
David Blatt.
Kevin Cale, Lionel Hollins, Jeff Hornacek.
Wow. There you go. And, you know, your old boss George Karl once said, with regard to head coaching in the NBA, I'll coach as long as they'll let me. Now, he wasn't referring to management or ownership. He was referring to the players, as long as the players will let me. Do you think that's an extreme statement, or do you think with some of these firings, is there maybe some evidence that player unrest of some sort created the push to make a change at the head coaching level?
You know, what I always say about coaching changes is that us on the outside, and we probably had this conversation last time because somebody probably got fired then too, but you don't know what's going on inside. You don't know the player dynamics, player-coach dynamics, management dynamics. Certainly losing plays a part of it, but You just don't know. I know the decision makers for every franchise is trying to do what they think is in the best interest of the franchise. Now, whether that's if they're making the right decision or not, who knows? But it's a very tenuous profession to begin with. The bar has been changed. Look, as David Blatt being fired with the best record in the East.
Yeah.
In the East, that's
wow,
difficult to understand. Kevin McHale being fired after taking the team to Western Conference Final and not being able to ride out a tough spell, but you just don't know. And I don't think anybody in these decision-making positions are making these decisions flippantly. I think they put a lot of thought into it. But as a coach, it's you just go to work every day and you do your best. And Coach Gergerich, who we all know, the best advice was you said you just got to keep coaching them, and that's what you do as a coach. You just keep coaching them, and then if time runs out on you, time runs out.
Coach, your style seems to be more. Your communication style seems to be more laid back. You like to have more of a dialogue. I've played with coaches who talk down the guys. I've played with coaches who were just too lenient, and they end up getting stepped on just a bit. In your coaching experience, where do you feel like the balance is? I mean, I know you have your style, but do you feel like that's something I wish I had done, or Popovich's total control?
But total control, but he is. He's a great communicator with the players, and he has a great sense of humor, and he's been with them for a very long time. So, the best advice you can give a coach is you have to be yourself, and trying to be somebody who you're not is going to come off wrong no matter what that is. So, I think most people looking back on whatever it is, a lot of times there may be some regrets. I don't know, but the best advice is you got to be yourself, because players, particularly at this level, high school and college might be a little bit different, but at this level, players are very smart. They're very in tune to what's going on around them with other players and the coaches and the dynamics. And if they see phoniness, if they see you're not being who you are, it's not going to work. And respect is so important in this league.
That comment that George made, is it difficult at all, though? I mean, people are now saying that from the moment that David Blatt met LeBron, they got off to an awkward start, and they never really recovered from that, and then maybe he had something to do with David Blatt, getting ousted, even having the best record in the Eastern Conference. Is it difficult sometimes to try to keep a good rapport with your best players, who clearly have some power of some sort? I think most of them know it, but also to understand that you're still the boss when things maybe get tough, and maybe you got to call somebody out from time to time.
Well, I don't know. I think it's what I know about the relationship with players is that when the coach and the best player have a good relationship, there's a better chance for success, and certainly when you have, I don't know what comes first, the success or the relationship, but whether it's Magic Johnson and Pat Riley, or Belichick and Brady, or you just go down the line, I think that's when you are able to have that relationship with your best player, it certainly bodes well for everything going forward, because they're basically, those are the two leaders of the team. And if there's a division there, then it makes things more difficult.
Speaking of leaders of the team, I want to change the subject a little bit. Damian Lillard, he's not just killing it on the court. I mean, he's doing so many different things. It's beginning to feel like he's just a guy who's destined to be successful.
He's special. More than anything else, he's special. The more you're around him, I think people are more aware of how special he is. As a player, obviously he's extremely talented, and as a person and as a leader and as a teammate, he's very special. And going into this season, we were talking earlier about this year, but going into this season, he accepted that responsibility of being the best player and being a leader, and he's never shied away from it. And when things are tough, he still answers the questions, and he comes to work every day and sets it by example. And when you have those type of players at the top of your roster, it makes things easier for everybody.
How much does it help when also your best player is somebody that we've often talked over the course of a long season, how sometimes the players can even get tired of hearing the head coach's voice after a while, even if what he says makes a lot of sense. But how helpful is it to have the best player kind of carry a similar message, maybe do it in a different way, but that sometimes, you step back and he's the one that's kind of doing the encouraging or doing the prodding to get the team to play the way you want them to?
Well, I think that's important, whether you call it delegation or, I had a master's in business administration, so I still, some of those words still come back to me, cooperative leadership or whatever it is. But, between that, having an assistant coaching staff that, giving them a voice, and so that the same message is being sent from your best player to your staff from me, so it's not always coming from me, is very helpful.
Got to mention, you talked about your assistant coaching staff, and a lot of people don't get to see the work that they put in and how they help these guys be successful. I got to mention Dale Osborne, because I'm around Coach Oz enough to see the work that he puts in, and the success that Will Barton has, and how he stayed in Will's ear for so long to see Will be successful. How important is it to have guys who are selfless like that? They'll be at the gym anytime, and it's not just Dale, it's your entire staff, but I talk about Dale in particular because he and I talk a little bit more than maybe some of the other coaches.
I couldn't be more proud of the staff that I have and the work that they do. I mentioned all of them were there today on an off day. And Dale, as an example, he's spent so much of his career in the minor leagues and dealing with a lot of players on the fringe and trying to get them going in the right direction and telling them the truth,
Right.
And a lot of times players don't want to hear the truth, but Dale has a very good way about him of talking to the players and getting them to work. You talked about Will Barton and Thomas Robinson, and now this year with Cliff Alexander and Luis Montero and those guys. He has a great way, but my entire staff, it works extremely hard. They're very knowledgeable. They have great personalities. Our coaching meetings are energized and fun and productive. I've been very fortunate to have the staff that I have.
When CJ was drafted, a lot of people saw some similarities right away to DAMIAN, a 4-year guy that comes from a smaller school that got better as his college career went on. Obviously, he didn't break out onto the scene in the NBA to the same degree right away as DAMIAN did. Some injuries that he had to battle through, some guys ahead of him maybe in the rotation. But how satisfying has it been to see everything come together for him, the hard work that he's put in, the patience that he's needed to show, and really putting together a solid season, and obviously one of your best players night in, night out?
I'm really I'm happy for him, and certainly happy for us that he's having the season that he is. He was very talented coming out of college. As you mentioned, the injuries were a setback, but I think those 2 years, as difficult as they were for him, he got big, he got stronger, he improved his ball handling, he got a taste of what it was like to compete at a high level on 2 50-win teams, and understanding the urgency of what it took to win every night in this league. And it was difficult for him those first 2 years, but I don't know if he would be having the success right now if he hadn't gone through that. And he's worked extremely hard during those 2 seasons and in the off seasons to be able to do what he's doing right now.
Coach, thank you for coming in again. Good news, you don't have to come in next week.
Oh, come on, please.
Unless you really want to.
I'm in Memphis. We play in Memphis.
Yeah, actually, next week the show's on Tuesday, so we'll be back in town.
Oh, we'll be back in town.
So it's up to you.
I'll give you a call.
Okay, I appreciate that.
I'll hit you.
Enjoy dinner with Jan, and have a good night, and we'll see you back here tomorrow for a victory over the Bucks.
Sounds good, guys.
Blazers head coach Terry Stotts, a good man, a fabulous coach, and we always enjoy any opportunity to visit with him on the program.